So another addendum, another point to the last video I would like to talk about is the assault on physical attractiveness that exists in our media and in the world today, and its origins and where it's come from and where it's going, right? So it's no secret to anyone that we can't have attractive women or attractive people, I should say, although scantily clad men doesn't seem to be an issue in modern video games and media, but let's just say people just, because it'll come for the scantily clad men eventually, I'm sure. What is the assault on beauty? What is the purpose of the assault on beauty? And that's an interesting topic because a lot of nationalities, specifically one nationality that also is a race, that also is a religion, comes to mind when I think about that for the last 2,000 years has had pretty much a perpetual assault on what is conventionally attractive, right? This is the same nationality slash race slash religion that also coincidentally formed the basis for communism and also coincidentally went on basically a war against conventional beauty in in early Russian states, and the assault of conventional beauty, which is also the assault of the family, which is also the deconstruction basically of what we would consider our social norms, right? And tearing those down so that we can rebuild them in, I don't even know what image, like where their idea is to progress towards some sort of perfected society, but how is objective beauty progressing away from a perfected society? You would think it would be the opposite, but again, that's just another tremendous contrarian aspect of Marxism that's perpetually existed since its inception and long before. So the assault on beauty really is just another deconstruction of what our perceived social values are, right? So it's the same thing, like we're allowed to talk about all the different social constructs and how they elaborate, but age is not the social construct you're allowed to talk about. If you talk about age as a social construct, suddenly you're in trouble because the communists don't want to point that out because, of course, if age is just a social construct, then that has a lot of ramifications that I'm not going to go into here, but if you have an IQ above room temperature, you've already figured out. And, obviously we can't follow their ideas to their logical conclusions because then every single communist would be hung up, just like every single person of that certain race, nationality. I also happen to belong to it. Zionism, heck yeah. But anyways, if we're talking about, the assault on beauty, it dates back to as far as, ancient Greece, and there were a bunch of people that used to worship ugliness. They, like Bacchus, etc., and all, the god of wine and all of that. And that whole line of reasoning is really a lot of where, at least the earliest I can think of that has this attack on, what is conventionally attractive, right? And conventionally attractive isn't just some social construct or something that came out of thin air, right? People evolved, and specifically went after features that are attractive because they are good for reproduction, right? Large chesticles are good for reproductive purposes because that's where the milkies are, right? I mean, it makes sense, It's ape-brain stuff, but it's actually factually true, right? And symmetrical faces, something which I do not have, being an dysgenic mongoloid, that is also something which is related to, this is like ape-brain stuff, this is ingrained into us. Like, conventional beauty isn't just some social construct or something, like age, for instance, something like, the family unit, all of these things that are just appear out of thin air. Like, I get it. Before the social construct of the family, there was this idea of the village, where you had Chad slept with all of the women by himself, and then all of the beta males basically got scraps and then worked to raise Chad's children, right? And we don't work, don't be one of them, by the way. Don't ever raise a child that isn't yours, in case you don't understand that fact yet. Hopefully, if you're watching this, that goes without saying, but it doesn't matter how attractive the woman is. It doesn't matter anything about anything. It's not your child. It's not your responsibility. Don't take on it. In a society that makes sense, in a society where you want to progress it, where you're rewarded for being virtuous, where you're rewarded for being a man, let's say, doing something like that is fine, and where beauty is, a fundamental presupposition that everyone can agree upon that we're working towards, not in the Marxist heck hole we live in right now, but in a society that's actually got its head on properly, moving towards that goal, you can take on responsibilities that aren't yours. Like, in a perfect world, like, let's just say we had a traditional 1950s America world, right? There does need to be a man to step up and take care of widows and things like that, especially if the husband's, like, lost in a war, right? There is room for that in, the perfect world or a perfect society, but, in modern day society, in no way, shape, or form do you owe that to society. Like, you have to exist in a mind frame in modern America where your interests are the primary thing you should be concerned with. There is no greater good anymore. It's done. You're not a part of greater society. Greater society hates you, in fact. Society is designed around keeping you from, achieving any sort of prominence or power. And basically, it's about trying to destroy you. And so if you're willing to sacrifice for that kind of society, I hate to tell you, but I don't think it's going to work out well for you, and I don't think you should do it. And definitely not being some kind of cuck that takes care of a child that isn't yours. Like, you should only do things that benefit you, and by, approximation, that means benefit your genes. If they're not your genes, then it's not your problem. If conventional beauty, which for a man is being strong, being all of these different facets that combine, being, someone that can lead, being someone who can resolve conflicts, if, what is traditional masculinity, and a lot of people misunderstand traditional masculinity. You've got the Andrew Tate types that are just like these pimps, these mongoloid ape brain. Like, let's be clear here, Andrew Tate is basically a leftist, right? He's not, at least a conservative, not what I would consider right-leaning at all. He's just some pimp ape, and you've got all of these people that share that kind of same viewpoint, that have this idea that masculinity and quote-unquote being an alpha is about, projecting strength and then dominating others. In reality, that type of ape gets killed by when the beta apes group up and murder him. Like, he gets ripped to shred by the tribe because he's too aggressive. The true alphas, or the true kings of the hierarchy, are people that are capable of conflict resolution. And, that's at least what peak manliness is. No matter what the media or what anyone else tells you, like, if you're someone that, people can rely upon to be a proper judge of character, to be able to de-escalate things and make things work and get things done. That's what the idea of a man is. And in the current societal constructs we have, you cannot do that, period, because these conflicts are not resolvable and they're intentionally illogical. There has to be some sort of logic that's associated with conflict resolution. And when you have a people that are so kiked up as the American people are, it's simply not possible. Like, you can't have, women being an undefined characteristic, men and women being, not, or being social constructs like we have in today. You can't have all of these Marxist ideologies and then also have some sort of conflict resolution, because there is no way. It is, by definition, conflict. When you have undefined social factors like that, there is no such thing as conflict resolution, and there is no such thing as beauty in a society like that. So, at least for a man, like, having some sort of beauty or being able to project beauty out onto the world is simply not possible in a current societal configuration. So, not only is society not worth fighting for, not worth dying for, but even if you are the potential best man you can be, at least in my opinion, unless you prescribe to some sort of Andrew Tate thing in which, your capacity for violence is your only real manly characteristic. I mean, if you're that much of a retard, go ahead, do you, king. Like, I don't think things are gonna go well for you. Like, for instance, as strong as you might be, the second you insult Greta Thunberg on Twitter, you're still going to get thrown in jail and raped. So, it is what it is. Figure it out. But yeah. Either way, that's all I have to say on that. And, in your life, try and find beautiful things, at least, because there's very few of them in modern day America. And if you really want beauty in your life, you're going to have to create it. And going forwards with the advent of AI, being able to run local language models, it'll be out there and you'll have an option to do that. So just look towards that as far as the future goes. Use your technology to make your life better, and forget the rest of the world. It's done for. You have a nice day. Peace.